Hey guys, May here, and I like to come to you and discuss the zodiac, astrology, our inverted language system, occult symbolism, esoteric, as well as all things astral and consciousness. As far as I can tell, and from what my cosmic messages offer to me, this is a layer of the astral. We are experiencing in this file-based experience a layer of the astral. So not only is there astral projection, essentially this is a type of human projection, if you will, which is the good news, as you never want to take things too seriously in this experience. I know that I realize that we've all been guilty of that on some level or another, as we are literally thrown challenges and obstacles on a daily, sometimes hourly basis, given the positions of the zodiac, which in a very abstract fashion I like to offer to you through concepts that you've likely not heard before. I know that where I come from differs, especially than modern day astrology with their spinning rocks, which is absolutely absurd, and spinning rocks in the sky, millions and billions of miles away. I feel fortunate. It's a blessing and a curse, no doubt. Blessing and a curse. I feel fortunate that I cannot even remotely succumb to this way of thinking. And I never could. Not for any amount of money, which I don't care a lot about anyway, or power or fame, whatever would come along with that. I can't subscribe to these theories. It's preposterous. I feel much more advanced, and I would imagine if you stumbled on this channel, and especially if you're one of the can I say OG yet? Can I say that? I don't know. Maybe not. I'm still kind of new, but maybe you are an OG. Maybe you've been here a few weeks, few months, and you also are highly elevated and advanced to far beyond what mainstream and the conspire. That's the conspiracy. Gene ration. That gene ration. That we all see that's flooded that's with an E, internet. We see all these conspire videos coming up in our feed because we are a cattle-based system in our feed here, and this Facebook, this internet with an E, right? So we're all subjected to this onslaught of preposterity. Preposterity? Is that a word? I do like to sometimes invent words. I do say things, I absolutely do say things in a way that feels natural and makes more sense to me, as opposed to the cursing, the spellcasting, cursing Saturnian system that most NPCs and wonderful, beautiful old souls have can't help but to engage in, because that's how we commune. That's how we communicate, right? There's no other way. So we've got to speak this restrictive inverted language system, right? So, but I do often tailor it to my own advantage and refuse some of the scripted cursive based terminology, which is essentially a worship to the gods. And truth be told, the gods, the deities, whether it's Venus, or Mars, the ram, you know, it's so much of this in this construct is perspective. So much of it is perspective. It's unbelievable, and it's how you essentially program yourself, right? You need to be the programmer. You need to be the CEO of your computer type file-based system in your computer type brain. So you need to program your own sorcerer code, right? You are the sorcerer. And so in that, we've got this system, this soul-based system, which is an inner space, not an outer space, is a projection, essentially lying inside of us, right? The alien is inside of us. It's all inside of us. I'm hard pressed not to be. I can't be convinced that it's outside of us. I just can't. I mean, you can try. It's not going to happen. I just can't. My inner knowing, my cosmic messages, my elevated self, my higher self just won't allow it. I can't subscribe to this. And you know what, God? I just want to say this. I just want to say this real quick. No matter what they're pushing down your throats, whether it's conspiracy, whether it's mainstream, always, always, always go with what your intuition, right? With what your higher self truly believes, and always engage in that, right? So I know that so many of us are thrown obstacles, as I was saying, on a daily basis. These are thought forms, that Thoth forms, right? This is Thoth forms. Even NPCs to some degree are a type of Thoth form. So everything in this hologram, is a series of thought forms, right? So it's how you react, how you engage, how you respond on so many levels, and how you harness the power to override the thought forms, right? If that makes sense. Because if you think about it in a file-based system way, everything that comes at you, and you take it like a file, like you would a computer, throw this in the bin, in the storage bin, right? Right? And never, ever give it too much of your power, right? So there's parasites. That's parasite that is just basically the lower dimensional forces trying to have a go at you. Always see it that way. They find adventure and fun in this, right? So they will throw an NPC your way to instigate, to poke, if you will, right? Whether it's related to finances, emotion, whatever the case may be. You write the source code for your computer-based system, your file. That's F-I-L-E, life, file, inverted. It's an experience. So you are always in charge of your own programming. You are the programmer, right? Rather than one who is a victim of the program in the hologram, right? Isn't that interesting? Program, hologram, hollow, houses of the hologram. So which is really about portals and dimensions that are in the deep layers of consciousness. So, and so much of this you can see in the zodiac, there's a reason why each one of us, especially those of us that are real souled beings, that's souled, not soul, that's S-O-U-L, right? Souled, right? So many of us that are real infinite beings with our electrical sprite, our aura swirling around right outside of us that are connected to that. So many of us are thrown these elements, these element of the mind, these programs, and it is like a constant onslaught, and it's our job to thwart and harness, essentially, right? Right? Harness Thor, if you will. Harness Thor, the power of Jupiter. This is the script inside of you. And that's why you can see through patterns and through your own birth script, you will recognize patterns that will repeat throughout your file-based experience. And in just a moment, I want to talk more about the ET phone OM, the ET phone OM, right? Which OM is the first two letters of the moon, and how our receiver is connected and corded in directly by way of the moon. So I want to talk about that for a moment, but I wanted to talk a second about patterns and life patterns in the matrix script in which you are written into here, right? Which is the bravest and most courageous thing that you've ever done. It's the most courageous, bravest thing that you ever engaged in, was to exist and to enter this machine, if you will, this matrix, right? And amazing to you, and how brave you are to come here. And it's not without reason. It is absolutely not without reason. I know a lot will say we're just loosh, we're just food, okay, whatever. No, we're so much more than that. We're so much more than that. And since it's an inverted, upside down, shook up world, spelled WHIRLD, then that means that you're bigger and more powerful than you can even fathom, than you can even imagine. So the moon, the OM, right, which is what right now? Which is what, right? She's basically like, this is the soul harvest, right? She's pregnant in a way, right? And this is why I compare, and this is why I believe this is what Humpty Dumpty was written about, right? Because what does she do? She grows a hump. She grows a hump in her gestational period, which is culminating right now. It's culminating right now, today as we speak. And then she's going to dump the hump. And she's going to do some amazing shape-shifting. Now that is the only shape-shifting that I particularly subscribe to. I don't subscribe to the lizard shape-shifting of the... I'm not saying it doesn't happen. The problem is that I've never seen it. So I don't have first-hand knowledge on the shape-shifting lizards. So maybe you do. I mean, it's very likely a layer of consciousness that maybe that can be experienced, as far as I can tell. But for me, it's a little bit easier, and maybe you can relate to work with what I've actually concede. That doesn't mean you can't give recognition to what's not seen with the visible eye. We are highly restricted and limited to the five senses. There's no question. But the moon, she is a shapeshifter, and she humps and she dumps. And so before she shrinks into the dark side, right? Before she shrinks in the dark side, there is a type of situation going on right now, and I bet you feel it. I bet you're feeling it. I don't care who you are, where you are feeling this moon. What are they saying right now? It's the blue moon. The blue moon. The so rare, the rare blue moon, right? You know, when we were kids, for anyone who is over 40, there was at Kmart, or if you're American, you can remember at Kmart, there was what was called the blue light special. So there's no irony in the fact the moon is blue, and the blue light special is essentially how we all engage in this and experience in this hologram is through the blue light, right? There's no denying that, is there? So the blue light and the blue moon, do you think that they could be connected? Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, you don't think that that's just a irony coincidence? um, no. So the blue moon and the blue light, absolutely, I am certain there is a connection. We are corded, we are recorded into this system, and that's why the brain operates on a sort of loop, right? The brain loops. Like when you have a song playing over and over again, certain lines. Well, that's why the song is actually, that's why the lyrics are repetitious for a reason. Lyrics are repetitious for a reason, because it hooks you in with the repetitive stanzas, the repetitive sounds and lyrics repeatedly, even in one song. And so a loop-based system, and water does hold memory. We know that. And the moon is made up of water. What's a pool, or a loop inverted is a pool, right? Like pool of water, right? So the moon is a water-based plasma type system, which we see, which looks very much like an X-ray to me of this realm, right? As a reflection of this realm, which makes a lot of sense since we're upside down here. So even though we see it, it's definitely a series of waves, right? It's electromagnetic waves. And from what I can tell, and from what I feel, it's a dielectric system, whereas the sun, related to the heart, which is why the lion is the king of the zodiac, and the sun is electromagnetism. And that is the male, that is the, I always get this backwards, so bear with me. The left hemisphere, the left hemisphere is related to the moon, and the right side of the brain is correlates with the sun, the masculine. And so in astrology, actually you have to keep in mind with astrology that, or the esoteric, or the cult, if you will, is that masculine and feminine is not the same as the gender in the material sense and what we're experiencing as far as male and female, right? Like masculine and feminine, excuse me, is more about force. It's more about just strength and force, right? In different ways. And so, like for example, for me, I'm a double Leo, and so I have a real strong masculine side. I'm very much feminine and a female. But the thing is I can be a very alpha female. So it's about is it about dramatics, theatrics, having a strong voice, having a strong presence, right? These are more masculine traits, and the moon could be a little bit more, you could say, more emotional or introverted, right? That's that other side of us, which there's more weight carried to one side or the other, in every individual. So having said that, when the moon is full, like I'm saying, she expands and she shrinks. She's a shapeshifter. When she is full, like right now, right, we are really feeling it. I mean, regardless of what sign you are, you may feel it more if you've got a stronger moon presence in your zodiac, of course. So the moon, it's a weight. Like you feel the weight. You have trouble sleeping, or you sleep deep, but then you wake up throughout the night. This is all correlated to the moon. And I want to tell you something. And sometimes I get concerned about conveying some of my deepest thoughts that I write down late at night, from my by way of cosmic messages. Sometimes I get concerned about the internet and divulging too much, and that it is a type of echo chamber. It is recorded, just like I'm speaking to you now. We are corded in here, and then we are recorded, right? We've got that silver cord, and that is by way of the moon. And so what is the correlation inside of your system, inside of your file-based system? What is the correlation? It is your pituitary. Now, there's always a lot of talk about the pineal. Yeah, the pineal gets like front and center stage. But you might want to examine that a little closer and use caution when embracing the pineal too much. Yes, it's accurate. I absolutely believe in it, that we've got to roll away the stone. But the pineal, by way of the spinal cord, is what we want to access, to open up. There's no question. We want to grab Amon Ra, right? We want to grab the RAM, the computer system, and open him up to the truth about the nature of reality and this matrix. And you will gain that truth, and the pineal will always help you. But don't dismiss the pituitary, okay? Pituitary is the master of the endocrine system and the hormones. That is the master, right? Master and servant. And if you've ever met a male and a female, let me tell you who wears the pants. It's typically the female. And she can be a blood-sucking, energy sucker. There's no question. Even coming to you as a female myself, which I always say is the iron male, because Fe on the periodic table, on the table of elements, that's iron, right? And the female does require iron, right? So the female has an ability to suck some blood, by way of her black moon Lilith psyche, right? Or her energy, right? So, let me just say, side note here, I was raised most of my life by a male. I certainly lived with my mother as well, and I'm much more like my mother than my father. But, however, I was raised by a very unique Viking type. He actually wrote a couple of books, and he was a teacher and later a professor for a college here in New Orleans, and that I also went to, and so did my mother. And he had some crazy red blonde hair. He had a gene. It always starts with an M. It's like MR24D2-16. It's a rare gene. Red hair and blue eyes, you may know, is the most rare combination of a human's coloring. The hair and eye coloring is red hair and blue eyes. It's only 2% of the population, with blonde being another part of that. And so he considered himself some type of Anunnaki. But he was quite interesting. He was a member of Mensa. He was highly intelligent, although he never liked when I would tell him that I was smarter than him. So we were a little bit competitive. And he wrote a couple books. We have the same degrees in language and linguistics and literature. And sometimes I would say, I know this is awful, but if I was too loaded with work and school at the university, I'd say, Dad, could you finish this paper for me? But it was funny because a lot of times the professors were like, it came off sounding like I was a right-winged, middle-aged Aryan man. So anyway, that was just a side note about I always refer to him as the red-haired man. He was quite eccentric and wildly interesting and wildly theatrical. He was an Aries. But so Anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. I tell you guys that I tell you I do I can get off on tangents. But I was going somewhere with this, and where I was going with this was the masculine and the feminine. So my being raised so much by a male certainly influenced my way of thinking, and certainly influenced my power, my force, my confidence, when I've needed it, especially. So there's certain male traits that I'm very grateful for. And it doesn't have anything to do with femininity. So that's what I'm getting at with the moon and the sun. And the pineal, as far as I can tell, is more reflective of the sun. And that's how we get these breakthroughs of consciousness. The word sun is essentially in the word consciousness. So then you've got the moon, pituitary. Pituitary actually does shift, as I was saying, does do some shape shifting based on the fluctuations of hormones. And of course, it'll be different for females. But what's really interesting, what I find really interesting, is that when the female is pregnant, there's some real major shape shifting going on in that pituitary, right? Pituitary is more like pituitary is more like a nut, like a small nut, like a granule. And then obviously, the pineal is more shaped like a pine cone. But the pituitary is in one spot closer it's closer to the eyes, like it just sits right behind the bridge of the nose. And then you've got the sun, the pineal G-land, that's gland, the G-land, the inner G, and that sits back further from the pituitary. And don't you find it interesting that that is exactly analogous to the sun and the moon in the sky, right? I mean, even though we know the distance is not what we're told, the preposterous nonsense distance of the NASA, right? We know that distance is not real. The numbers are just here to just discombobulate, just scramble, just to confuse, comfortably numb your brain. Oh my God, I can't even think that far. It's the same as the national debt. It's just ridiculous. So what I'm getting at is that it's much closer because they're waveforms. They're just waveforms, moon and the sun, and they exist also deep inside of your skull, of your brain. So you've got the right and left hemisphere. Now in the center is pituitary. And the thing is, and let me double check, but the pineal gland I believe is in the center too, but they operate different sides of the hemispheres of the brain. So because you got two, right? Kind of like east and west, right? You got the North Pole and the South Pole. You are a p-pole. You are a popole. You're a people and a person. I mean, do you guys see like all the connections? Is it just me? God, I hope not. Sometimes it can be very isolating with all these thoughts. Sometimes I get really overloaded and bombarded with the cosmic messages, which are, I know, a connection of my inner space to the projection outside. So, whether it's coming from Orion, which just means gate of God, the inner G, the G constellation, the moon, Oman, the moon, wherever these messages are stemming from, they're coming steadfast and strong on a regular basis. And so much it's hard to keep up with all the writings. I mean, I go through notebooks. I go through about 2 notebooks every week and a half. I have to buy more notebooks. And sometimes I'm like, I can't even make a video because where do I start and where do I end? But because you mean so much to me, I want to share it, even though I prefer the analog. It's why I talk about logging into the analog, and I always want to share it with you, these revolutions that I have. And the thing is the pituitary and the pineal, what you want is you want both activated, as far as I can tell. The The SINE is that big breakthrough, that big connection to consciousness that's lying outside of us. So we connect the dots, essentially. When you activate the right side, you sit at the right hand of the Father, and that is the Father, Uranus, which is the Uranus, the uniserve, the universe, right? So they're all just aspects of consciousness. The pituitary will have a huge effect on you, especially when she's full. And right now it's full, and it's like I was saying, like a shrink and an expansion. So you may also be bombarded with revolutions and thoughts related to this pituitary G-land, right? In your energy, the energy, which is just like the strings of the heart and the ventricle system and the sympathetic nerves, right? Going up to the spinal cord, going up to the skull, into over the hill for your revelations, your revolutions. And the thing is pituitary needs engagement too. And it's not talked about a lot. It's sort of a bridge, like I've said to you, there's a bridge, like I said in another video, it's a bridge of the lower boiler room basement guy, the subconscious, and the higher conscious. And you can also correlate that to the pituitary and the pineal. Because there's always a set of emotions, feminine based, that must be considered when we are taking in these cosmic messages in the sun-based consciousness. So for me, it's always consciousness, sun-based, that is more powerful. But the pituitary, when the moon is full and when the pituitary is experiencing these hormone fluctuations and shape-shifting deep inside the brain, I do experience a lot more revolutions, if you will, and I'm wondering if you do too. And it's directly correlates to sleep. Now I know pineal is melatonin based, right? And I get that, but pituitary is also vital on many levels and can affect your sleep. So the thing is, and the takeaway from all this, guys, is really the fact that you're in a hologram. So in that hologram is a program in which you are viewing, essentially, by way of the third eye ventricle and by way of the black pupils, in the center of your iris, right? Your Siri, you got your Siri, your iris. So the thing is it's a type of programming, and you always want to override the system, harness your power. As I was saying, even when the thought forms are thrown at you. And in my hologram, my simulation, I'm experiencing this a lot lately. And I do feel like in the lunacy of it all, right? The lunacy, the lunatics, right? As we go out, we venture out into this holographic system, you will experience more lunacy. You'll experience those closest to you and strangers alike. Just their actions, their communications, off, weird, strange, at times threatening. Obviously, we all experience that. We have to wear our armor so often. And it's not easy for anyone to not react. But I'll tell you what, I'll tell you this. The more and more that we activate and evolve and uplift and rise in consciousness, the more and more we learn to fly, essentially, with our electrical spirit, the more that, or the less, I should say, reactive we are. When we realize that the Ottomans, like, how can I put this? The Ottomans are essentially just thought forms. We can disengage, we can disarm them even. You can disarm them with your excellent communication skills, with your turning away, in the words of Pink Floyd. Because it just doesn't matter. That's how the lower dimensional forces want to grab you. And I'm going to be honest, and this is not negative, but during the full moon, when she's pregnant, when she's doing her soul recycling system that's happening now, when we see ET phone ohm, as the electrical system and the porting system, the umbilical cord, right? The umbilical cord that we're all attached to, that silver cord, as she is expanding and experiencing that right now in fullness, you are going to experience more lunatic thought forms from the Ottomans, by way of the Ottomans. I know they're often called NPCs, and that's fine. I usually prefer to say Ottomans, right? They're a different type of entity or soul, if you will, right? And they're very much here, I mean, in human form, but they are more generators, gene raiders, the gene ration of the machine. They appeared to, in my opinion, be here only recently, or to come here, to enter here only recently, whereas I believe those of us with more activated souls, spirits, if you will, we've been here many, many times. So, and we are visitors here, right? So this is their world, and I've done a video on that some time ago on how we've entered. We are like tourists, if you will, we are tourists in their world, in their matrix, in this this grid-based system, which is really just depictions, seasonal depictions, depictions of the moon, depictions of the sun. They're all real, they're all waveforms in one sense, and they weigh on us, and they afflict us, and they affect us. But the point is for you, when you are thrown these obstacles by way of the Ottomans, and they may be more when the moon is expanded and pregnant, right? Because the cords are tighter, the recording system, okay, the matrix, it's kind of it's a resetting of itself. ET phone home, because we're all ETs essentially, and we're all phoning Om, because that is Om, that is the moon. And also I know that there's other elements of that. You've got all the constellations, the 88 constellations, they're all connected, right, by way of the sun and the moon. You've got Coma Bernices, you've got the Fornax, these are all connected, right? They're like little cords that we can't see, tram lines, if you will, that we cannot see with our basic limited 5 restricted senses. We are restricted here. So we've got that third eye, though, activating, and so when it is activated and our consciousness is elevated, we are more powerful. And when it's thrown at us, this matrix type, right, like kind of like Neo in the Matrix, right? Even though it's been so long since I've seen that movie, but the thing is when it is thrown at you by way of the Ottomans, the more and more you harness your power and you're less reactive, the higher and elevated that you are, your consciousness. The more uplifted, the more you will receive in exchange for that, in my opinion, more cosmic messages. Okay? And it'll come naturally. It'll absolutely come naturally. Because you wound up in this mysterious plane of existence. That's all it is a plane of existence, a state of mind. You wound up in this place really not with a lot of let's say, honest material instruction, if you will, right? We know that there's a level of deceit going on here by the lower dimensional forces. We can all agree on that, right? So you may be experiencing that. You may be experiencing insomnia, which has the word moon, right? So as she starts to shrink down, you will notice the fluctuations in your experiences, in your feelings, and in your thoughts. But we can harness and activate to our benefit, right, while she's going through this reset, right? this releasing of the souls. And you know what? To be honest with you, I do notice different slides. Yeah, slides like film, film with the moon when she resets herself. There's new images that I see through my pupils, through my by way of my third eye ventricle. I see different slides. I see different slides. The shades and the hues are still, the sky is not blue like it used to be, the sun is not yellow, but I'm talking like in the Matrix. I will see the colors can be more muted. I will see more patterns. I see a lot of patterns, and that's a whole nother video, and I'm about to conclude in just a moment. I've taken up so much time, but the whole point of this was the ET phone home, which that is you, that is me. We are the ET. And we are phoning Om right now as she is expanded and pregnant. But I do want to say this. I really want to get this out. I really will allow me to get this out, is that there's a type of reset that goes on in every pregnancy when she gives birth to the new souls. And those will often be the newer gene rations. They will often be the newer gene rations. I know we got the X gene ration and the Y gene ration, They will often be the new gene rations. And, who's to say that they're just not just popping in here and they're full with memory? They consider themselves a real existence, a real entity, right? Sure. From what some say, the backdrop characters, but they are needed to convince you that this is a real system. And the C is that C-shaped funnel of nerves in Con, and the On is the light. Like Galilean astrotheology, On is the light of God. It's the on the hill. It's Galilee. And the Con is just that C-shaped funnel of nerves, and all the outer projections around us trying to convince the who man, right? That is you and me, the older souls in this electric-based system, that this is a real reality when it's not. It's not. It's a morphogenic field based on waveforms in the ether, and it's just a file-based experience. Philosophy. If you're new to this channel, or if you're in Pakistan, like most of my viewers, you might want to check out the philosophy series that I did. Like it's in Groundhog Day. There is truth in movies. And by the way, before I conclude, what two letters do you see in the word movie? Do you see Om? Yes, language is inverted. Language is inverted. You need to reassemble the letters. You see Om, V, E-T phone, Om, right? Mu, V, Om, V. V as in the connection of the third eye ventricle and the two eyes that you are looking out of right now by way of the black pupils that looks just like the black of your cell phone and the TV and the computer when it's asleep, right? It's black, right? Just like night when you close your eyes. So you've got the V, the two eyes and the third eye ventricle, the V. Then you've got the I, right, for the main eye, that third eye. And then you've got the E for ether, electrical, ether, earthling, in which you are experiencing this experience. So you've got the Mu V by coming to you by way of Om, right? Moon, Om, moon. Does that make sense? I hope so. So I will conclude there, but the moon absolutely has something to do with the movies and the slides that you watch on your Netflix, on your streaming, rowing your boat in merrily down the stream, and that you see with your two eyes when you walk out into this world, spelled W-H-I-R-L-D. So the moon plays a huge role in that. And you're going to see and experience this reset. I'm telling you, if you think about what I'm saying, as we go through this full moon, which is today, it's culminating today, and you're going to hopefully take note of what I've said, and maybe notice some new patterns and resets in your world, your personal world, and in the matrix file-based system around you, right? Even in just the smaller little bubbles, right? You may notice some reset patterns. Everything is patterns here. Binary codes and patterns. And I went way longer than I planned to. But I had a lot to say. I always have a lot to say. And you guys are all brilliant. I think that it's amazing, absolutely amazing, some of the powerful and interesting talks that you share on this channel. And it's all just channeling, right? It's channeling. We're channeling on the channel. So I'll conclude there, and I love to see your thoughts. And I will have some more shorter videos coming this week, definitely zodiac based. And never forget that your zodiac is your blueprint, your cosmic blueprint, and no one else shares that with you. And that's what makes you unique and special. Just like your fingerprint. No one else has your fingerprint. No one else has your zodiac spinning inside their head, emanating from the EYE, right? No one else does. Now we can share similarities, sure, of course. Of course, but no one has your distinct blueprint, your distinct zodiac, your distinct pattern. You came into here with a pattern, okay? I always say it's that Sabian pattern, all right? And it's unique and distinct only to your avatar, your experience, and your computer file-based system. And it's amazing when you think about it. I encourage each of you, I always encourage you to look deep into that. Doesn't mean you need to fully learn the zodiac and astrology. I'm not saying that. However, I do think it's a good idea to just know at least your pattern and the basics of your zodiac so that you can help. Never you're a victim. Never ever or do you need to succumb to what houses, you know, your 8th house, your 2nd house, where Venus is, where the moon is. Never ever. But you can absolutely harness the power of that, because I do believe we can override the script. I do absolutely believe that it takes your incentive, your ambition, your incentive, your energy to engage with it and override the system. You are the CEO. You are the God. You are the source code writer of your own programming, right? Right? That's why we're in a hologram. That's why on the TV they call it a program. But that's not your program. You wouldn't be here if you weren't of a higher, more advanced spiritual intellect listening to this type of video. And I'm sure what you read and what you experience. I'm so heavily restricted on my channel, with the exception of Pakistan. So I'm so heavily restricted. So if you got here, it's not by accident. But I do want to remind you, because I am on your side. I always tell you that I do want to remind you that the relevance and significance of your zodiac pattern, which is unique only to you and your script, so that you can be empowered by it. So you can be empowered. So you can get a general idea of what's going on here and how you can shape it and change it and alter it in your very personal, isolating, if you will, experience, right? No matter how close you are to anyone, whether they're NPC or a true soul being, you're having this experience very solo, right? Solo. God, that has so many connotations, doesn't it? Solo. Solo. And solo, S-O-L, is in soul. So you're having a very unique, distinct experience. So this is important for you to know, so you can harness the power and so that you can override the system as the source code writer of your existence. And I will stop there. I know I went on a good long time, but I hope that you will reflect, and I gave you some food for thought, some braingasms, if you will, on the pituitary and the pineal, and the relevance and significance of harnessing both. You know, I hope that you will take time this week and maybe take some time and log into the analog. Absolutely, pen to paper, log into the analog. You know, guys, last tidbit. This digital experience really is a digital experience. It really is a digital hologram. And the less you engage with that and the more you analog yourself, log into the analog, whether it's sketching, writing, drawing, gardening, using your hands, but especially writing with a pen before they're all in a museum. You know what I mean? So write with a pen to paper, no matter what it is. I mean, maybe it's a to-do list. Expand on that to-do list, though, and actually do it, right? but a real notebook, your favorite color if you want, pink, blue, I don't care, but just write. That's how you actually engage in automatic channeling. Did you know that? You actually will engage. Your higher self will latch on, and your higher self will engage with you. You want that. You want to have those bursts, those consciousness, those bursts of electricity, those thoughts, those powerful thoughts. Because the more that you connect with it, I'll tell you what, the more likely when the time comes that you will be able to end this game, right? And game over, right? So would you go to the airport? Would you ever go to the airport without a ticket? Huh. No. So you get what I'm saying here. So it's the same as far as the astral and the outer layers of consciousness that sit right outside of us. That wireless system right outside of the electromagnetic body, the body which is electric, right? That electromagnetic aura, if you will, which is just aura, gold, sun, emanating all around you. Well, it needs you. It needs you, and you must engage. And I'm telling you, log into the analog. The lower dimensional forces love the digital. They love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So the more you engage with it, right? The more you engage with it, the more power it has. But instead, if you engage in analog activities, engage in analog activity, that means reading real books. I read about one book every 3 to 4 days. I am constantly reading. I could start a whole YouTube channel on books alone, which I do incorporate into this channel on some level at times. But so many of my cosmic messages are direct, so often I talk about just what I feel pushed, if you will, by my higher self to give to you. But I do reference texts a lot of times, and that was what my university uniserve background was in. Actually, was in linguistics and literature. So anyway, I'm going to stop there. But read real books, read real texts, log into the analog, pen to paper, and I will probably come back to you with more shorter zodiac videos coming this week. I am in New Orleans, but I will always try to give you one live in person in real form in my avatar, and I will do that this week coming up. So I hope that you will join me in that in my next coming videos. And I love to see your thoughts, and I love to engage with like minds, and that's all we're here. That's exactly what we're here for, and it's to help you know that you're not alone. And as I always say, I am on your side. Hey, May, wake me up when it's over. Is this ending or what? I know. I'm going to stop now. Okay. More in the next one. Thanks, guys.